customers' patience for friction is zero, irrespective of how sophisticated the channel is and what technology is powering it. What they want is always on, to be able to connect to insurer, zero friction, and human where necessary. I think that's what's going to drive how customers assess experience with insurers. GenAI will possibly make our rookie and new agents more effective. It won't make them redundant. Agency is still the mainstay. We have done away with paper and other frictions of the sales process, but customers still value that in-person advice, which is now augmented by digital tools. Insurance sales is not an attractive career for a lot of our youngsters. No kid in school will say, oh, I want to grow up and become an insurance agent. We definitely will have a talent and skills gap. We will have smaller sales forces. We now need to work very hard to make them super productive.
Welcome back to Pulse Check. Today I have a very special guest, Sushmita Munshi, who has been very well known in the industry. You've been in various executive roles as also board member roles. So really great pleasure to have you in the Pulse Check.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege.
Thank you, Sushmita. So, Sushmita, you've spent more than 20 years in the industry, especially in regional global roles, and I'm sure we'll talk about it extensively. But as you know me, before I want to go into your past experience, I would love to break the ice with what's something unique about you that you're willing to share.
Thank you, Solomon. And as I was telling someone, this is a really tough question to get started with right off the bat. I've done nothing heroic or fancy, not climbed a mountain or run a marathon. I think what I do is I like quotes, and there are two that really resonate with me. The first one is fresh ideas like fish don't get better with time. And the second one is by the cartoonist Tim Kreider, that life is a controlless experiment with no do-overs. So you bring those two together is my life motto. You know, if you've got a great idea, get onto it right now, and while you're at it, make it fun, because you know life is a one-shot game. And I kind of take that forward to work, and my perspectives on customer, digital innovation and insurance is kind of centered around the concept of do it now and let's have fun with it.
Yeah, that's a great start. Actually, you have a lot of passion and energy. So I would have loved to hear that you're open to a marathon, because I would have taken you up for it, as I'm a runner. But no, great to really have you on board today, because of course, we know each other since a long time, and I've seen also the interesting transformations you've achieved yourself running big initiatives in the region. And that's also where I would love to start, but noting again some background stories about what you've achieved. So first of all, of course, you've been at the intersection of digital product innovation, customer experience, driving technology transformation. That's why I'm able to name it, for example, a move program tracking activities of customers in insurance that have really changed the game a bit in the market. You've moved also from one of the biggest insurers to the next one, focusing also on life insurance. So I would love to hear first a bit on your background, and especially also maybe how the insurance industry has developed over the last 2 decades.
I think you've spoken enough about my background. I'm not going to get into the details. It makes me a little uncomfortable. But let's talk about life insurance. And I think the last 15 years have been really exciting. And I think the next few seem to be ones that seem to point signs towards also being ones with a lot of action up front. So before we look forward, let's just look backwards, okay? So in the last 15 years, most major insurers have been on a transformation journey when it comes to digital data and customer. And there's been learnings from there, which I think we can take forward to the next 5, especially we're now at an inflection point where agentic AI is becoming mainstream. And it's kind of getting embedded in the way we work and the way we run our businesses. So I'll talk about three lessons which I think are particularly valuable. The first one's around distribution in AI. So in 2010, that was the year I landed in Hong Kong, there was a lot of discussion around how direct to customer would make possibly agency and banker redundant, right? We wouldn't need large agency forces. Cut to 2025, agency is still the mainstay.
Yep.
We have done away with paper and other frictions of the sales process, but customers still value that in-person advice, which is now augmented by digital tools. Now, if you flip the coin and look at direct to customers made headways in simpler products, in embedded insurance, in GI, through partnerships. So the real takeaway for distribution at this point of time is moving forward. GenAI will possibly make our rookie and new agents more effective. It won't make them redundant. So that's, I think, our first lesson. If we pivot a little bit and look at customer engagement and IoT-based solutions, which you spoke about earlier on, and what's really happened in that space, 2013, AIA, Discovery of South Africa, got together to launch Vitality in Asia. And at the back of that, a number of insurers had similar IoT-based shared value insurance programs, and they were really like a Trojan horse to drive customer engagement. Now, IoTs have been extremely helpful for insurers when it comes to P&C or auto insurance. However, in life insurance, most customers got really bored of wearing a cheap device and tracking their steps. And, after a few months, they kind of went off their wrists. So though it improved people's awareness of how sleep, health, steps would improve your health and longevity, it did not have a material impact on insurance. So the takeaway here is, I think in the next few years, we're going to see a lot of emerging tech, which actually is going to make a difference to people's lives and society. However, for insurance, we'll have to take a customer preference lens to it and really assess and curate if an emerging technology really would work for us. So I think that's the second lesson. And the third one is really around servicing and, no servicing possibly. Most insurers have made huge strides in customer servicing. We remember the early days of customer service websites, then we moved to owned apps. In the last couple of years, a lot of servicing functionality have been embedded in third-party solutions like Line and WeChat and Zalo, often powered by a natural language solution or agentic AI. However, customers' patience for friction is zero, irrespective of how sophisticated the channel is and what technology is powering it. So customers at this point, their preference really is no servicing. And if you look at the Uber example, what they really do well is track customer behavior. So they preempt a problem. If the customer reports a problem, they guide the customer to self-serve and very often very quickly give you a resolution, giving the customer the benefit of doubt without pushing you to speak to a person or a bot. So moving forward, I think the takeaway is most of our customers, what they want is always on to be able to connect to an insurer, zero friction, and human where necessary. And I think that's what's going to drive how customers assess experience with insurers.
Yeah, absolutely. So to drive this personalization, to create this superior customer experience, because, again, happy to talk to an agent, but if it takes days or even weeks back and forth to, okay, you got me now additional inputs, now I need to calculate again, I come back to you in a few days, it's still not that the best immediate response I could guess. So what role does then the personalization
I think
give
that's
you
a
here?
fantastic question because, I've been having conversations with people like, you really can't personalize if you go from digital to analog. Your personalization kind of drops through the cracks. So let's just step back and see how insurance is actually sold and if we've had personalization in the past. I've had the privilege to travel to a lot of what we call up-country branches, outside of the major cities. semi-rural areas where you have branches, where you have a salesperson who probably is a football coach, but also sells insurance on the side, or has a restaurant or a small business, and is kind of the center of a social circle. So they've also now got a license and they're selling. Some of these guys have been insurance agents for 15, 20 years, often sell a product a month, which means they're really productive. And they have a really dedicated pool of customers. They actually offer a pretty awesome personalized service to their customers. So if you deconstruct how they work, there are 3 things that you see which allows them to offer a very personalized experience to their customers. So the first one is they have an intimate knowledge of their customer. What's happening in that person's life, who their parents are, how many children do they have, what's keeping this person, awake at night. Second, they actually have a really good understanding of the product and the service to be able to customize that product to the specific needs of the customer, right? And that's why a lot of our agents would really sell a couple of products. That would be their kind of workhorse. They wouldn't be masters at a suite of 15 products. And number 3, which I think is most important, is trust. Trust from the customer and trust from the insurer, and in most cases in a sales experience for the underwriting team, to allow the salesperson to customize the product and put it in front of the customer. Now, in any scenario, if one of these 3 things kind of fall off, there's going to be, or it does not exist, there's a breakdown in personalization. The real opportunity here for us insurers is how can we ensure each agent with each customer in each interaction has the support to be the best version of themselves, right? So that is the opportunity for us insurers. Now, in a world where that sale is happening in a pretty analog manner, how do we go about it? What's the approach? And I'm really simplifying this, but this is not impossible to do. Step 1, we definitely need social listening and behavioral segmentation. I think that's kind of the bedrock to provide our salespeople the right cues about the customer that they're meeting, details about them, or at least, where do this customer, which cluster does this customer sit in, and what's likely to be their drivers. The second piece is around leveraging AI solutions for role play training to help our agents get product mastery quickly and develop their soft skills to open conversations, to close conversations, to build trust with the customer. If we do these 2 things really well and help our agents with a really strong playbook to sell, what we then have is natural building of trust, which then follows into likely a personalized offer and conversion, and that kind of naturally happens. So this is, I think, a bit of the holy grail that we need to go after to have personalization in insurance in the agency context.
You mentioned AI, and I would love to, of course, everyone is talking AI at the moment, dig deeper into how AI-driven tools can also support the agents, as you just mentioned. Maybe I bring you a quick example from the banking side first. So in banking, if you are in a sales process, high net worth individual asking for advice in terms of his portfolio, you anyway, for regulatory reasons, in front of HKMA, SFC, need to record the conversation. With this, you can actually also have AI listen into the conversation. And of course, many clients, they're probably even happy if this improves the advice. I'm not an expert in insurance on the actual sales process, but I'm 100% convinced I was not recorded in buying my life insurance. But would you see, in terms of AI usage and adoption, a future where?
Absolutely. And we see that in some of our markets where you already have regulators going, not the whole, say, 2-hour conversation or the 90-minute conversation, but there's specific parts of the conversation which needs to be recorded. And we see, if I'm not correct, and I'm a little hazy on it, but the regulator in a couple of our Southeast Asia markets, including Vietnam, where they are mandating a certain part of the script needs to be recorded. And the AI tool kind of listens in and says, you need to say this differently, or you need to reiterate this with this customer, or they kind of give a bit of a score, which comes to the insurer going, this customer possibly did not understand the features and functionalities of the product. So we see that in agency. In telemarketing, if you look at markets where telemarketing is a substantial channel, like say in Korea, Taiwan, Indonesia, very often telemarketers, the Q&A now is an AI solution, which is kind of listening in and prompting the salesperson to say something or reiterate something, or that they missed something. So, the dollars that was spent on doing manual QA post facto, which is kind of pointless, because then if it was actually mis-selling, you had to kind of cancel the product.
Yeah.
Policy for the customer. A lot of that's happening in real time. So yeah, absolutely, it's here and now. It's not gazing in the future.
Yeah, because the worst experience is that you give all the information to the agent and he doesn't listen properly or misinterprets the information and comes back with something you didn't want, right? And you hate the experience if you feel he's overselling something you do not necessarily need. So with this, I would love to go into the next question then on AI. So the kind of the biggest challenges, but also biggest opportunities with driving AI adoption in the industry.
A lot of us will, when you start talking about, what's really are the barriers, and we'll say, oh, it's our legacy systems and our very limited customer data. Now, they're real problems, but I would say they're not the most important barrier.
Mm-hmm.
If I kind of, in my view, from being within the industry, for me, the real barrier is the way our teams are set up, mm-hmm. how we are incentivizing our teams to solve what problem. So it's like, what problems are we incentivizing to be solved? And then the kind of training and support we are providing our people to solve problems which are a little more future-oriented than very here and now. For me, those three are really the biggest kind of barriers for adoption for AI. Now, if I take it closer home to my world, which is, customer marketing, that space, this space has been really disrupted by AI in the last 18 months. So if you look at digital marketing, customer value management, media planning, user experience design, all these activities, the cycles of iteration have got super lean and super quick compared to even like 3 years back. Unfortunately, I think now there's the opportunity is how do we redesign our teams and reskill them to be able to, leverage this benefit that tools are providing us. So in the last few years, as I was helping kind of put some of these teams together, set up what are the skills that we have, who does what, and also conversations with peers in the industry who have similar roles in other firms, I think it was pretty evident that we need to relook at the marketing customer functions. And I've come up with this blueprint, or we call it the customer marketing rubric for life insurance, which includes essentially 6 capabilities, mm-hmm. 5 levers, 4 metrics, tier 1 metrics that we're going to leverage to measure our markets and hold them accountable, and 3 mandates for global, market, and shared services teams, and placing them in a mid-office space where they form a link between distribution and the back office. So that's, for me, like a blueprint for moving forward. And so anyone who's interested or trying to set up a new team, do come and have a chat with me. I'm very happy to share notes, compare stories, because I think this pivot is going to really help our industry move forward.
So do you believe that the bigger insurers here, they're really all set for full AI adoption, or is it more an experimentation still?
There is definitely a lot of experimentation. You need to iterate before you kind of hit the nail on the head. Different insurers, I would say, are at a different point of evolution. Mm-hmm. Depending on your legacy and how much you've invested in the last few years on your foundations, you are better off or not, to move forward. But by and large, as I said, I think organization design, where we place teams, and having that really strong middle office is really critical to ensure we continue to kind of win the game on margins, customer engagement, reduce lapse and drive customer engagement, and then valuation, without getting our org design right, I think we're in a bit of a rough spot. There's going to be more friction than wins moving forward.
Very interesting. Last question. I know we're already getting towards time. So the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think the really big themes will be, the big changes or pressures?
Oh, wow. Okay. Crystal ball question. So if I place myself in the shoes of an investor or that of a board member looking at insurance as a category, what am I really looking for? One, I am looking at businesses that are leaner, that are efficient. So I think, unfortunately, I think being cost efficient is a reality which we all need to kind of acknowledge. I think having the kind of, I wouldn't want to call it fat, but some of the bloated organizations we've had in the past, I think those are going to get really skinnied down, right? Number two, we are in a spot where insurance sales is not an attractive career for a lot of our youngsters in, say, emerging markets or even in developed Asia. No one wants to become an insurance agent. No kid in school will say, oh, I want to grow up and become an insurance agent. So we definitely will have a talent and skills gap. Yep. So we will have smaller sales forces. We now need to work very hard to make them super productive. Right. So all the tools, the support to make them the best version of themselves is going to be really, really helpful. And finally, I think from a customer perspective, customers are getting more discerning. We are living much longer than we were 50 years back. So we will have to really, really relook at product and features, which is going to lend itself to a society that lives longer.
Great way to end in a scary environment where everyone feels like there's high unemployment coming ahead due to AI adoption. You also still see a bit of a skill and talent gap because, yes, we still need the human nature in terms of also selling an insurance. So this will not be completely replaced by AI. So there is really some light. Of course, less domain-specific back office functions will be reduced with automation, but front office customer-centric roles are still very high in demand. And if the young generation listens to us, maybe they consider again if that's an interesting role to play. So thank you so much, Sushmita. Final question to you is, where can we find you, or where can people connect with you?
I'm in Hong Kong and I'm on LinkedIn. So drop me a note and I'm always up to have a coffee and catch up.
Thank you so much. And of course, you find us also on LinkedIn, Pulse Check Podcast by Simpulse 8, also on social media. And with this, thank you once again, Sushmita. It's been very interesting today.
Thank you.